What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. My name is Day Reed, and today we're going to be doing a Disciplined Priest guide for Season of Discovery. Before I get started, I just want to say thank you guys so much for all the support on the channel. All the new subscribers, all the views, all the likes, all the comments, everything has just been incredible, and I'm super grateful for it, and it's been an amazing thing to see. So I appreciate it so much. Like I don't have words really to explain, all that to you guys. It's just one of those things where you just never thought it would happen. But yeah, it's definitely, it's a new experience for me. It's like kind of strange because I just am not used to it. But I hope you guys decide to subscribe and like and all that good stuff on this video, as well as future videos. We're very close to 400 subs. I think we're at 394. I think is what we're at right now. So let's see if we can get past 400. That'd be really cool. But anyways, today's guide is going to be Disciplined Priest. I want it to be simple, easy to understand, not too much information thrown at you at once. And this guide is mainly for people who are new to Priest, whether it's because they're new to Classic WoW in general, or they're playing an alt and so they don't know as much about Priest as they do their other characters or their main. So this is going to be a simple and easy guide. Try to remove the fluff, the filler, and just get you the bare bones information that you need. So things we're going to be going over are going to be the runes, the talents, as well as stats and your rotation and just like your main abilities. So first things first, obviously it's SOD, so we're going to go over runes. Because Disciplined Priest is more of a hybrid, I would say like 75% healer and 25% DPS, you're going to run a little bit differently with things, and your playstyle's gonna be a little bit different, I think, than most healers. With my chest rune, I go with Void Plague. So this is basically a dot. Afflicts a target with a disease that causes 349 damage over time, over 18 seconds. Just another dot you can put on. You get a dot with Void Plague. You put on Shadow Ward Pain. Those are your dots you would apply for things. I don't know how to say this word. I don't know why, but I just call it Ham. So this basically, gives you 3 little mini versions of yourself, little shadowy versions of yourself, and they go and attack the target. But I'll read this off to you. Breaks off splinters of your soul to animate 3 miniature copies of yourself that attempt to attack the current target with a mace, sword, and axe, reducing the attack speed, attack power, and armor, respectively, of a target they hit. So basically, little shadow version of yourself to go attack, little minions. And then I go with Penance on my hands. I think most people probably know what this is. It's like the first rune you get when you make a priest, but it launches a volley of holy light at the target, causing 64 damage if it is an enemy, and 137 healing for an ally instantly every 1 second for 2 seconds. Most people know what this is, Penance. Now, obviously, there are other runes you can use. I would say situationally, you could switch out Ham for Power Ward Barrier in certain situations. I would say if you're gonna use Power Ward Barrier, you're probably gonna use Circle of Healing as well, because they're both AOE like group wide things. So in certain bosses where in BFD, for example, there are certain bosses where you're going to be taking raid-wide damage. Everyone's taking damage at the same time, and something like Power Word Barrier, which if I just apply this, will put a little kind of like Anduin in that one cinematic where he puts that big holy like bubble over everybody, and this basically reduces damage by 25% and will not and it says reduces all damage by 25% and preventing damage from delaying a spell casting. So you can use that, and then also Circle of Healing heals all of target players' party members within 40 yards of target player for 210 to 233. That's worded super weird, but basically an AOE heal, AOE protection. You can see where you could probably use that in certain situations, but it's not going to be like your baseline thing. So again, just real quick, Void Plague, Ham, and Penance. Those are the runes that I go with. Alright, so moving on to talents. So I don't put anything into Shadow. I'm going to be putting 2 into Holy and 14 into Discipline. The 2 that I put into Holy are going to be for Healing Focus. This gives you a 70% chance to avoid interruption caused by damage while casting any healing spell. Pretty important. It's very, very helpful. Then I put 5 into Wand Specialization. This increases your damage using your wand by 25%. I put 2 into Improved Power Word Fortitude. Increases the effect of your Power Word Fortitude and Prayer of Fortitude spells by 30%. I put 3 into Improved Power Word Shield. Increases your damage absorbed by your Power Word Shield by 15%. And then I go with 1 point into Inner Focus. It's a 3-minute cooldown. When activated, reduces the mana cost of your spell of your next spell by 100% and increases the critical effect chance by 25% if it is capable of a critical effect. So it's basically giving you a free heal, no mana. You'll obviously want to use this on your big heals that are very expensive in terms of your mana. And then I follow it up with 3 points into Meditation. Allows for 15% of your mana regeneration to continue while casting. So this is, again, this is the tree. This is the talents that I use for Discipline. Now going into your stats. So the stats you're going to be focusing a lot on are going to be your healing power, mana per 5 seconds. People also call this MP5. Spirit, intellect, spell crit, and stamina. So that's going to be from most important to least important. So again, I'll say most important to least important. Healing power, mana per 5 seconds, spirit, intellect, crit, spell crit, and stamina. Mana per 5 seconds and spirit are basically the same. It's like kind of the same thing. But MP5, mana per 5 seconds, is basically the amount of mana you're gaining every 5 seconds while in combat. So again, very similar to like spirit, which is just your kind of going into, here it is, increases the health and mana regeneration rates. So it's just the rate at which your mana increases in combat is your MP5 mana per 5 seconds. Finally, going into your rotation, a rotation. It's not really a rotation because when you're a healer, it's situational. But the abilities you're going to be using the most, or the abilities you're going to be focusing on, are going to be Renew, Flash Heal, Penance, Power Word Shield, Heal, and Lesser Heal. Now, understanding when you need to use what is what's the most important. So, Power Word Shield, that goes on anybody who is taking the most amount of damage, which should be your tank. So, in most situations, it should be your tank that gets that. Now, if for some reason tank loses aggro, or stuff hits the fan and you're trying to clear out trash mobs, pulled too many, people are taking damage everywhere, you throw up a shield on maybe a DPS because they're taking much damage right now, or throwing a shield on yourself because you have taken a lot of damage right now. But for the most part, you're throwing a shield up on the tank, and that's what you're going to be kind of starting off with. Now your heal, that's like your oh crap. That's your I need to heal for a large chunk right now. It's more of an emergency thing. Now it's a 3-second cast, but it's 205 mana. It's pretty expensive, but it heals for 438 to 500 mana. Now if you pair this up with your Inner Focus, that 3-minute cooldown, you can get, if I click this, I have this ability, so your next cast, right, it's still 3 seconds. Let's make it faster. But you can see 459, and it costs me no mana to use that. So you can kind of pair that up with your pair up your Inner Focus with your heal if you need to. If mana's getting a little bit tight, it's definitely something you can use. For the most part, I feel like you throw Renew up. Usually Renew you don't need to put on anybody except for a tank, just for that extra bit of healing if you need to get somebody up. Throwing Renew up on somebody, again, it's kind of expensive. You can use other ranks if you want to. I use rank 3. Obviously, if you're having issues with mana, maybe try using a rank 2 or a rank 1 or something like that. Obviously, it's not going to heal for as much, but less costly. But Renew, you don't want to be like throwing this out on everybody. You don't want to just be like spamming it out and just throwing it out there, because you're going through a lot of mana. I mean, if you're in a dungeon and you're using it on everybody, you're burning through 500 mana, and that's like almost half of my mana pool right here. So you want to use it, for that little extra bit of help, but not as like a main heal. Main heal is probably going to be your flash heal and your penance. Those are probably going to be your main 2 heals that you're using. And obviously I just have this. I have my lesser heal on there. 75 mana used. It does heal for like 143, 165. It's just one of those things where if you're coming into a pinch and you need to get heals out, that's what you would use it for. Now, if I ever get into a pinch, usually I just use penance, because usually it's just tanks dying. Usually it's not the group dying. But they're very similar in mana cost. Obviously, the penance is a cooldown. But if you're just if you just need a little bit more, you're on that last little bit, and you're about to die or something, or your group's about to die or whatever it is, and you're just trying to keep them alive for that last little bit. That's kind of like your emergency when everything's going wrong. But for the most part, you're kind of just keeping up your shield, and kind of just using flash heal and penance. And also, just a thing for people to know, when you're healing, you want to try and keep people at about 80%. Keeping somebody between 75 to 90% is like the perfect range to keep your tank at least, because you don't want to overheal. If somebody's missing 100 health and you heal them for 200, you overhealed by 100, and then which kind of means that you wasted mana. So you want to kind of keep people, 80%, 75, 90%. That's like a good range to kind of keep somebody at with their health, just to avoid any type of overuse of mana where you don't need to. You don't need to, unlike maybe retail, you don't really need to top everybody off and keep people at 100% or anything like that. You can keep people at 80% and you're fine, at least in most situations. So next thing, obviously, just outside of your main rotation, real quick, just go over things that you would need to keep up. Make sure everybody in your group has fortitude. Make sure you have inner fire on yourself. Your defensives are Mind Soothe, Fade, Elun's Grace. I guess you could use Psychic Scream as a defensive, but I mean, you don't want to, fear mobs into other groups and pull a bunch of extra stuff. So that's very situational. And then you have your utility, which is your Dispel Magic and your Cure Disease, as well as your DPS abilities. Now, again, we went into, more DPS runes, and there's a balance you need to keep with discipline, where it's, like I said, it's like 25% doing damage and 75% doing healing. So a big thing you want to do, really, when you get into an encounter, put up a shield on your tank. When he pulls, put up a Shadow Ward Pain, put up a Void Plague, and use your Ham ability, and keep the dots up as much as you can. And then obviously healing is your priority. If everybody is kind of doing well with their health, people aren't dying as much, use your wand, right? Use your wand as filler on the boss when people aren't dying. You had that 25% with the talent. You had that 25% extra damage from wands. Now, this is what you're gonna need to be doing. So, obviously, your main healing stuff is here. But in terms of what you're gonna be doing outside of that, again, keeping up your dots. And Ham, you really want to use just on bosses. You don't want to use it on trash mobs, especially with it being a cooldown. but using your dots, keeping that up on the boss, and then healing obviously, and then in between, so you're not just like standing there doing nothing, just wand down the boss. It costs no mana to do that, right? Like I said before, you don't want to use much of your mana doing damage, and so that when things hit the fan, you don't have any mana to use to heal people. So using that wand, you're doing damage, and then at the same time your mana is going up in the fight, right? So making sure you kind of balance that out is where you need to kind of sit at. But if you're new, focus on healing, and when you're ready to kind of, like I said, you can tell with your group. You can tell how good your group is to know. So if you're running dungeons, for example, if you're running a raid or whatever, you kind of know when, how good your group is, when if you need to heal more, if you need to do more DPS or not. So that's kind of the fun part about Discipline Priest, that you kind of get to, best of both worlds. You get to heal, you get to do some damage. Obviously, you're not sitting there just like casting on the boss, but keeping up those dots and using your wand as your filler in between that dead time you have in between healing. That's what you need to be doing. So I hope that helped you guys out for the guide. I hope I didn't spend too much time ranting and all that stuff. Hope it was simple enough. Hopefully it wasn't too much fluff like it's intended. Again, thank you guys so much for the support on all the videos and just on the channel in general. And hope you guys subscribe. Hope you guys like the video, all that good stuff. And yeah, again, thank you guys so much for everything, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.